You also get a strike in the BTB Movie Club, Matt, because you're supposed to pick from a movie that you have
Yeah.
previously picked. And Parasite was not a movie that you have previously picked.
Yeah.
So
Well, I didn't
there you go.
understand the rules, Tim. Since we play loosey goosey with the rules in this, I
Yeah,
can
it's
pick a
fine.
different movie if you
No, no,
want.
no, it's fine. I like this movie. We'll roll with it.
My bad for walking away. I had a lot of water earlier. What was the original pick that spawned this whole?
Matt picked Whiplash off of the movie Parasite. However, Matt did not pick the movie Parasite, and I was just making fun of him, but he is stubbornly now picking a different movie.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the BTB Movie Club podcast. My name is Brian Larson. We hope you enjoyed today's movie discussion. Thank you for listening.
Welcome to the BTB Movie Club. We are here to discuss movie number 215. My name is Tim Larson, here with a whole bunch of friends. Brian Larson made this pick. It is based off the You Might Like section of the IMDb website. Brian, what'd you pick? What movie did it come from? And let's roll.
I went to Memento, which I picked, and actually everyone pretty much enjoyed. And from there, we got to Inception, the 2010 Christopher Nolan movie that I had not seen. And I feel I should remove myself from the movie club for a lot longer than just one after not seeing this movie.
Yeah.
It's, an embarrassment. So, I don't think everyone else had seen it, correct? We didn't know about Wilden. It was a possibility, but he didn't make it. So I'm not going to go with the other person who hasn't seen it because no one else. So Tim, you usually go later in the round, so I'm going to start with you.
Okay. Inception, Sir Christopher Nolan wrote and directed this thing. What a creative genius this guy is. Just his body of work. Some of the stuff he's come up with is pretty out there and very intriguing. And so I think this is sort of so far as that's concerned, I think this is the cherry on top of the cake of his body of work. I mean, Oppenheimer's an incredible movie, but that one's not one of these you don't really see what's coming, category thing. He kind of Christopher Nolan kind of owns this at this point. There's some other writers and directors who have done movies like this, but this whole I don't know what's going on and what the ending means. Does that spinner stop or doesn't it? That tells us how the movie actually ends. This is just a great uh, piece of storytelling. The visuals incredible. The tension throughout the whole thing is pretty great. Um, Focusing on the levels. This is my second time around. I didn't have a hard time at all focusing on what level different characters were at, as far as how many levels of the subconscious you've gone down. I love the acting. I love the cinematography. I This is just a great movie for me. It doesn't really, I don't take away anything from it. It's not life altering. Like there's not this theme in life that I took away from it, but just a great movie. That's all I have. I'll choose to interject something else if somebody says something out of line. But really, that's all I got for you. Great pick, great movie.
All right, thank you. Melo.
All right. Hey, cool thing about recording at 6. Neighbor kids are still out practicing lacrosse. So in lieu, or maybe in addition to dog barking, we might
Uh-huh.
get to hear
Nice.
that. So second time watching this. It's been a long time. Jamie and I were talking about it. I'm pretty sure that the first time was, like when it got to HBO originally. So, 2011 or something like that. So it's been a long time. I remember not following everything and wanting to go back and watch it, but definitely appreciating a lot of what Tim talked about, cinematography and a lot of just the cool effects and just the story in and of itself, with the different layers and the complexity that goes with that. It's like a kind of like a time travel movie in that where a lot of times I get caught up in wanting to double check or see if there were any holes or kind of I don't know, just see if it all made sense. And one of the things I wrote was the pacing doesn't allow you to think, which I put was not a bad thing. Like I like that they, the stakes are there, even though at its heart, what I noticed this time was it's a heist movie. It's a one last score kind of thing, and the real winner is some corporate dickhead. Like that's really what's at stake here that I don't really care about. I mean, I guess if that person wins, then our protagonist gets to be with his kids, or that whole thing. So that's what makes you root for him. Yeah, I put DiCaprio's 5 years older than me, and I'll always see him as younger. Like he just always.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe credit to him. He's just got that youthful thing about him, regardless of his age. I didn't think about it at first. So I was excited to see Lucas Haas. Actor is not in a lot of stuff, but everything he's in I like. And then I didn't think about it until after I did read some explanation of the movie kind of things, just to double check that I was following everything and picking up on what I should. And they talk about the character. I don't know if I can even pronounce it, but the new architect, Ellen Elliott Page, and the fact of that character being new to the group or that scene serves a purpose of asking questions and allowing exposition to happen in a pretty natural way to catch the audience up. So I thought that was a good device. I found myself just writing down a bunch of names of people that I was glad to see in the movie. So him, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I wrote Kane, and then like everyone was exclamation. Hardy, Killian, Berenger, Kobayashi. I can't remember his actual real name offhand, but so just all of that. I did write down who's Mal or Mal, because I didn't really know her from anything, but she did great. Let me see.
Dark Knight Rises, isn't she?
Yeah, she's
I
Talia.
really-
Talia al
Marion
Ghul.
Cotillard. She's another Nolan favorite.
Okay.
She's won an Academy Award for a French foreign film.
Got it. All right. I'll have to check that out. Let me see.
Ask questions here at the BTB Movie Club. You get answers.
I guess. Yeah, I don't know. There was a lot of questions initially or throughout the course of it that kind of were answered. Like originally, I'm like, man, there's some deep ass sleepers, but they explain that, why that works, and the kick thing, and all of that. The two biggest things, I guess, that stood out to me was the story was kind of the story, and that was good in and of itself. And then once the truck went off the bridge, and especially the next level in the hotel with all the Joseph Gordon-Levitt anti-gravity stuff, I thought was really, really cool. Fight scenes, wrapping them all up and putting them into the elevator, like all that stuff. I have no idea how they shot any of that. But just really well done. Because actually earlier when Paige is first learning how to be an architect, I actually wrote that the graphics were a little bit dated. Like you could just see more than you can now. But later, all of that other stuff, not even close. Like it was just really, really well done. And then the biggest question, or biggest other part, is the ending. What's your interpretation of that? And I'll leave that at that. But that was really why I started looking at a couple of articles just to see what some theories were. There were a couple of interesting potential tells, I guess. And so again, I'll leave it at that. But really, really great movie. Yeah, I think there's a lot of meat on this bone. So good pick.
Does anybody know sorry, Brian, to cut you off there. I read something quickly today about Christopher Nolan using a lot of practical effects. So, and that Joseph Gordon Light, I don't have his name in front of me. Levitt, thank you.
Levitt.
That he did all but one of his stunts. Does anybody know more about this? Like how they did some of those practical effects, since Melo brings it up?
I know they said that he trained. Oh, go ahead, Hilty.
No, you were going in the same direction that I was going in, so go ahead.
I was just saying, I know he was in a barrel turning hallway, and he had trained for, I think some like 60 hours or something like that for the fight scenes. So he wanted to do them himself in that particular scene.
That's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, Nolan doesn't like to use a lot of CGI. He tries to make everything as practical as possible. So no exception to this. The part where they're spinning, the hallway part, they just built a set and they just spun it the whole time when they were trying to film. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt said that was a giant pain in the ass. And the scene with the van that falls for what feels like forever. I read that took months to film because they just kept having to redo it, kind of based on what they were filming later on. So a lot of it is practical. There's a handful of CGI, but most of it is practical.
That's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Hilty, why don't you keep going?
Yeah, this one is definitely an all-timer for me. This is just when people say that there's not a whole lot of originality or creativity in Hollywood, you can look at what Nolan is doing a lot of the times, and Nolan, and I would say like Denis Villeneuve as well. There's lots of other people who are doing original stuff out there that it's just a matter of whether or not you actually want to go see it. So I will always give points to a filmmaker or a movie for swinging for the fences. And this is a movie that definitely swings for the fences, to try and do something that is, wildly different and trying to do a lot of cool and innovative things. I will definitely give a film a lot of credit for that. Reading up on some of the trivia for this, it's kind of astonishing how this movie got made in the first place. Whether, Nolan came up with this movie when he was 16, and it took him 10 years to like finish up the script, and he pitched it to Warner Brothers, which, him and Warner Brothers had a really great relationship for a long time, and then they wouldn't give him all the money that he wanted for Oppenheimer, and then he left and went to Universal instead. So, whoops, sorry for that. But like the original concept for this, he wanted it to be a horror movie, and that could have been interesting. I don't think it would have been as well received if it was a horror movie, because then it'd pretty much be the movie to sell. But he, DiCaprio did a lot of work on this to try to make it a little bit more character driven. And, like I'm at first watching this, like I'm not watching this because of the characters. I'm watching this because this is a cool concept and there's a lot of great action. But if you actually look back at it, if Cobb is like the person who is trying to, trying to have this grand concept of Inception that is trying to instill some type of idea into someone's head, and he's doing it for like good motivation, to try to get home to his family. Yeah, there's a lot of really great stuff, and it's no surprise that DiCaprio tried to doctor up the script a little bit to make it a little bit more character driven, because he gets all the meatier parts of the character stuff. So that's cool. The I love reading about some of the conspiracy theories for this movie. Like I think the one of my favorite ones that I read was that in the grand scheme of things, the architect is actually Saito, who is Ken Watanabe's character. He's the one that's the true architect for this. So I read a little bit about that and how he's the one that's like orchestrating everything. He's the money. He's the one that, you know, he like accidentally dies during during one of the dream sequences, but um, it was his whole idea, his whole vision for this whole thing. Just reading up on that was really interesting and really cool. Um, Nolan is really great when it comes to just little details for everything. Like the there's a six-digit number sequence for the safe at the very end that Killian Murphy types in order to open the safe. That that sequence is hinted at throughout the course of the whole movie. You just need to be on the lookout for that. The names, like a lot of the names, have a meaning behind it. So, for example, uh, Yusef, that's derived from Joseph, and Nolan picked that name because of Joseph's association with dreams and the like Technicolor dream coat and all that shit too. So Dom's name means home in like a lot of Eastern European languages. Mal, her name in other languages means unhappy. And Ariadne, who is Elliot Page's character, is the Greek goddess that has a lot to do with mazes and labyrinths. So just little details like that for nerds like me who likes looking into stuff like that, this is just a dream come true. And Brian, great pick. Love this movie. Really great. Really successful at the box office as well. I read a bunch of trivia that Warner Brothers was really happy with this because it came in under budget and on time. So something that you don't see a lot with movies. The budget was $160 million, which you see some movies out there that are like costing like two, three, $400 million now, and you're like, how on earth does something like this get made for $160 million with a stout cast like this and a lot of practical effects?
Yeah.
So great pick. Love this movie. I would talk about it more, but apparently you Lions fans need to, get on with this since Bears fans are,
We only have
you
2
know,
hours here, Hilty.
miserable. Okay, fine.
Well,
That's
thanks,
all.
Mike. We'll have some time at the end to get back to some things too. I do have some trivia myself, if nobody else mentions it. Dan, I feel this might be the quickest review you've given of a movie, so let's go ahead and go. Hey, Dan, I liked it. Thanks, Brian. Go on.
All right. Yeah, great pick. I saw this movie once a few years back, and I've been meaning to go back and watch it again. Because what'd you do, Tim? I missed that.
I just flipped over this little
Oh,
hourglass
okay.
here to
All
see
right.
if you could beat the 1.5
Gotcha.
minute hourglass.
Gotcha. I was meaning to go back, because there's a lot going on in this movie, so it's easy to miss things, and so I was glad to watch it again to catch everything. I love the way Nolan does the non-linear storytelling in the movie. The and I love the concept of the totems, the um and then there's the thing with Mal, that's Mal's totem that Dom has. So does he really control that totem, or is it still in Mal's control? So does so there's a lot of little things like that, like Hilty was saying, they're really cool in this movie. Um, if I'm gonna, I love the movie, but if I'm gonna nitpick a little bit, the sequence where the van's falling and it's time is slowed down in that sequence, and then the next dream is the anti-gravity. So then in the third dream in the snow fortress, wouldn't there be anti-gravity in that also? So I mean, there's little things you can nitpick,
Shut
little
up,
things.
nerd.
I know exactly.
Not the same thing.
But and I like the way he did the elevators, and when he was in his dream that Mal was in. Dom was in, the dream. And he's got the different levels of the dream and the elevator goes, to each level. And of course, down in the basement is the crazy Mal. So I like that kind of stuff. I think it's cool the way he worked his story into it. About Mel's death, that he felt guilty that he was the one that caused her death. So that's why one of the main reasons he agrees to try and do this is to get back to the U.S. and get with his kids. But the ending, I mean, the ending, it's ambiguous. You can go different ways with the ending. Um, is he really, in reality, or is he still in a dream at the end? That's why, he turns the top and then he just walks away before he sees whether he's in reality or not. Because I don't think he cares anymore because he's with his kids. So he's like, here's where I'm going to stay, no matter what this is. But some things that give credence to what reality is, in the dreams, he has a wedding ring on. But then in the reality scenes, he doesn't have a wedding ring on. And in that last sequence, he doesn't have a wedding ring on. So that kind of hints that this is reality. But then there's other things that say that it could possibly not be reality.
Or is he dreaming that he doesn't have a ring on?
Yeah, you can go down that route too. Yep. But but yeah, love this movie. Love all the intricacies of it, and good pick. Did I get the minute and a half?
It must be a 5-minute timer.
Okay.
All right. Aaron Lashbrook.
Thank you, Brian Larson. I'll change that. I know it's a problem for some people.
Just Matt, really.
Just Matt. Really.
I think it has my phone. It says Aaron Lash on my phone.
Me too.
But it's never been a problem.
My phone's also says Aaron Lash.
Never mind. I withdraw my statement.
Yeah, good pick. I've seen it before. I didn't know. I guess I got to do some research on Christopher Nolan because coming into this tonight, I'm like, and it was already touched on, nobody has original ideas anymore. It's like, this is the only guy that has blockbuster original ideas anymore. That's the way it seems to the public. And in my mind, I'm like, how does he come up with this concept in, 2010? And then 4 years later, he's got Interstellar. And, then he throws, a Batman trilogy in there that like blows everyone. I was like, so knowing that he actually was he's more of a writer, and maybe some of these concepts he's been, noodling at for a couple decades, since his teenage years, high school, college, whatever. That actually makes a lot more sense than me sitting back, like, thinking he's just banging them out. Okay, what's my next brilliant idea that nobody's ever thought of, or my own twist on something brilliant? But yeah, another good story by Christopher Nolan. Acting stellar, up and down. The cast, even who you would consider a bad guy. A couple things, obviously, we were already getting to that point. It's what's reality, what's not. And I think there's, in my mind, the second time through one, and I guess it would be easy to say, or it's not, mind blowing to say that this time I found it much more straightforward than I did the first time I watched it.
Yeah.
Not that I was super confused or anything the first time, but it was like, almost like I had a glint of, what, this isn't that creative, this isn't that mind blowing what they're doing, but the first time it totally was. And probably because it was a little bit harder to, figure out what was going on. I didn't know how it was going to end, stuff like that. So just to start, some dialogue, arguments, conversations, whatever. If I wanted to put, prick holes in it, and Malo already kind of brought it up, but in a good way. So when the van's falling And oh, Tim, you just had problems saying his last name, and now I can't think of any of his name.
Gordon
Gordon Levitt.
Gordon Levitt. The scene where the van's falling and it turns into that really cool scene that we need in the hallway. When that first starts and they're getting banged into, what was a wall and what was a ceiling, and it's fairly violent. I'm thinking everybody in that room that was plugged in and sleeping is probably dead, or at least unplugged, or the suitcase is smashed. They show it when it's all over and calm again. He goes in and everybody's just kind of gently floating in the middle of the room and stuff's a little disheveled, but I'm thinking those people would have got bounced off walls and ceilings and maybe even tossed out a window. So that was one that I was like, I didn't notice that the first time because I think everybody's in awe and they love that fight scene in the hall, so they don't really think about
Like that too, only it would be like a kick. Maybe whether they're dead or not. I thought like,
Right.
oh well, they're being jerked suddenly. That's got to be a kick. I love this movie, but that was the hole I was poking in. Sorry to interrupt. Please carry on.
No, that was that's the same thing I was thinking when I was watching it this time. It might have been Malo too, bringing up the corporate winners. Some evil corporate. What if none of it's real? So there's no, it's not like one corporation won, or if you go with the ending, if he's still in a dream state, there's an argument to be made. The entire movie, which is a cop out,
Right.
is him dreaming, but it's kind of the whole point of Mal trying to wake him up the whole time. So if you take it as he's wrong and Mal killed herself and left, and all he's seeing is a projection of her trying to get him to leave, and he's never left.
Right.
You have this whole thing where he's been trapped in a dream world the entire time, since way before the movie starts, which lends a little bit of credence to what Hilty was saying. We know he's super smart, or we assume from who he has interactions with. He was such a good architect that the only reason he can't do it anymore is because now Mal would know the mazes and be able to just be on him. But having all like the characters, all their names mean something. That's something a super smart person would do. And because it's the person who makes the mazes, I'm going to name him after a Greek person who made mazes. And subconsciously, his subconscious, I think, would do that. So that's another thing I think lending towards and I don't want to call it a cop out in the movie where like, oh, the whole movie was just a dream, because it's not one where he wakes up and if you go with it's a dream, he doesn't wake up and the whole movie was meaningless. It is his reality right now, if it all is a dream, and it's going to be his reality forever if he's choosing to walk away from the totem and just be with his kids and whatever. What other thing I wrote down? Oh, but then to like fight with myself about that, there's scenes that he's not in where I would call it, his partner, the guy he trusts the most, is talking to the new architect and about, you got to have a thing that's got a certain weight and this and that. And, he's nowhere around when that happens. So why do we see it if it's his dream? So that kind of pokes holes in the whole thing's a dream, or at least certain sequences are dreams, or not reality. So different things like that. I truly enjoyed watching it, probably better. And I liked it the first time, but even more this time. It just, like I said, it seemed a little more straightforward, more easy to follow. But like I said, it wasn't like it was super confusing the first time. It was just better. It was just easier to watch. So it was more enjoyable, I guess, because I wasn't, trying to figure things out the whole time. Nothing too groundbreaking, for me to say. Obviously, the movie is 1,000,000% groundbreaking. The only other thing I've heard over and over, Christopher Nolan likes practical effects. He wanted to set off a mini nuclear warhead, to get the bomb right, in Oppenheimer. this one I thought, looking at it, I was like, ooh, there's quite a bit. It's contained to a couple scenes, where they bend, I don't know, where they, France or England or something like that, bend the city over on itself when she's getting used to manipulating things. And the explosion and all as the, what do they call it, where the dreams crumbling or crashing or breaking down, and like walls just start popping out. So, I mean, there was quite a bit of CGI in this one. I thought it was excellently done, and I don't fault them for using any of it. But I had heard, it seems like in the last few years, probably since Oppenheimer, how Christopher Nolan's just, a practical guy. He wants to do everything practical. I don't care. This is a great movie. Interstellar's a great movie. So it might mean something to him, but I don't care what he does as long as he tells his stories the way he wants to tell them, because he does a really good job. So great movie. Good pick, Brian.
Thanks. Matt Smith.
All right. I've seen this movie a couple times, so not my first time. A couple of guys have already said it, but I just wanted to reiterate, like, definitely as you watch it more times, I don't think I was ever confused, but it definitely does take some thought process, which they don't always give you time to do in a movie like this, because there is some spots where it's going pretty fast. So I did enjoy, like, third or fourth time watching it, going, okay, I get the premise. I know what's going on here, so I can actually focus on everything else. And it did help give me some more details that I knew were there, but I never really paid attention to. I mean, Christopher Nolan, we watched another movie in this group. I think we watched Tenet in this group, right?
We did.
Another movie with a really unique idea at the time, Inception. I mean, it was such a unique, like, who has the brain to think about, we're going to go into dreams, but then we're also going to share the dreams, but also we're also going to go into dreams in the dreams, and we're going to do, I mean, just a really just like high level idea. And I thought Tenet was like that. Tenet, I don't think was as good of a movie, but it had a similar theme, right? Like, what was it? Going back in time, going
It was
back and forth
time.
in time.
Yeah, it was time travel.
So I don't think that one hit as well, and that could have been a COVID thing or whatever. But I think I loved seeing Ellen at the time. It was Ellen Page. Ryan mentioned it. I think they were a really good actress, and they did some really good stuff. And I know they're having some identity issues and stuff, and that made me sad, because I think this was a really good movie for them to be. And I think, to to Melo's point, became sort of the storyteller for us, because they were the new character in the group, so that we were able to kind of get some of that. It's always funny to me. It was almost a little bit of a device, because you're telling me nobody's ever tried to point this stuff out to him before. Like, she's brand new. She has no idea what you guys are doing, and nobody's thought to, like, point any of this out to Cobb before. Or maybe they have and he just never listened, or whatever. But that is one thing that kind of is like, okay, the new girl's gonna point out all the bad stuff, and you're gonna listen. Not that he listened to her, but I don't know. I thought that was weird that nobody else picked up on any of that, or maybe they just didn't say anything. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I think maybe that's kind of the point. Like you said, like, they were trying to point this stuff out, and everybody else who was part of the normal crew or had worked, they already knew. Like,
Yeah,
it's useless to do that.
sure, yeah. Yeah, no, just I don't have a whole lot of other things to say other than great movie, great concept. I think putting the concept on screen, which I'm sure, after watching hundreds and hundreds of movies, not just together, but just in our lives, like, we know that's not an easy thing to do. You can have a great concept on paper. And I'm sure this one looked great on paper, or maybe it even looked really confusing on paper, but the way he was able to put it on the screen with the effects and the way the scenes were shot, and the pacing and all the stuff you have to get right in a movie, and the editing, obviously. I'm sure he didn't do the editing himself, but I think he did a really good job just putting a nice coherent story together in a way where this story could have been so convoluted that people walked away going, I have no idea what just happened. This movie's terrible. You just confused me for 2 hours. But it didn't. It was pretty solid. They did as much explaining as they needed to do to get you into this world, and then they kind of let you live it for a scene after scene. And what a frantic sort of like last, what is it, 30, 40 minutes, like just very like there was some other stuff in the movie, but the build up to that just sort of frantic, like, okay, the van's going off the bridge. So this is the time we have right now. I thought that was good. And then the argument at the end of, is it a dream? Did the totem, whatever. Love that argument. I have no idea. I'd like to think it's the real world and those are his real kids, and that's the way it went. I always thought the totem was starting to wiggle a little bit, which led me to believe it was the real world, but I don't know. And really, I don't think it matters in the end. I know it's people like to argue about anything on the internet, but um, it doesn't matter. It's he got what he needed to get out of that, whether it's reality or not. You know, he got it. So anyway, and Michael Caine, just a side note, I know he does a lot of Nolan stuff too. I love when they can work him in. Wish he would have had a little bit more screen time, maybe during some of the explanation stuff, but I get it. He wasn't part of the crew. So, yeah, good pick, man. I like this movie a lot. I'm glad I got to watch it again.
Yeah, Michael Caine only had 3 minutes of screen time during the whole thing.
And he killed it.
Yeah. Mr. Wilden, have you seen this movie prior?
Oh,
I hadn't, so suck my dick. Um, calling me in.
I'm so used to everybody in this group asking me that question. It's like Hilty, everybody assumes he does. Everybody assumes I haven't, like I've never seen a movie before, kind of thing. And so I get defensive, and I feel like I can say it to you more than anybody else. So I
Yeah,
just have
no,
fun.
it's fine. It's fine. No, it was
Sounds
actually,
fine.
it was a question. It was brought up before you got here, so I wanted to ask it again, and that was why, because you weren't here, and you weren't here last week when I made the pick.
Yes,
Or
it
no,
was.
yeah, you were. Sorry.
And I said last week this is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, I didn't.
This is I'm not trying to poke holes in
Yeah.
anything. I'm just saying. Okay, so quick
Jim,
question for
Uh,
This is going
Mike
well.
Hilty. Hilty, did I see this in the theater with you?
No, I was living in
Yeah.
California.
Okay. I remember seeing it in the theater at that point in time, and that was around college time, so I wasn't sure. I know you and I have seen like around that era, we saw a few movies in the theater together, but I wasn't sure if that was one.
that is one
Um,
thing.
uh,
You did see it in the theater.
yes.
That is one thing I was going to mention but since you said it, it doesn't sound like anybody else said they saw it in the theater.
Nope.
This would have been, you did
This
too.
this was a great one to
Mhm.
watch in theaters because
I
as soon as it cuts to black and it doesn't reveal whether or not the totem falls, I heard somebody just scream "fuck!" Like, and
So
that was
I
great.
and
yeah.
on that note, when I was in the theater, as soon as it went black, I myself went, yes, because I love that ending. I love the ambiguous ending, and I think my friends were kind of annoyed at me for that, whoever I was watching it with, but it was I love that ending. I guess I'll start there. Um, you know, it is a fun debate. Like, is it real? Is it not? I I like, the whole concept of this movie is a big, swing for the fences, like Hilty was saying earlier. That ending is a swing for the fences too, to kind of take that risk and not reveal it. But I also like it because there's also kind of that layer of, as an audience at the end there, you're kind of seeing it from Cobb's point of view. And so there's maybe an aspect of like, you don't get to know whether it's a dream or whether it's reality because maybe he doesn't know anymore if it's a dream or reality. Like maybe it is reality, but he doesn't know the difference anymore because he's gone down into that area so many times that it's just, kind of melted his brain enough. So there's an aspect of like, maybe this is just you see kind of what he sees, which is, I don't know, maybe this is real, maybe it's not kind of thing.
There is
Um,
there is another theory that states that Cobb is the actual Mark and Mal has taken the team and she's the one that's actually in charge of it. I don't really see that one, but I read up on it and be like, well, okay, I kind of see what they're coming at. But then the next one I saw, or the next fan theory I saw, was this was a prequel to Titanic, and I got way more interested in that one because that one is super out there, and I am all here
It
for
was the
it.
first thing I thought of when he's waking up on the shore.
There we go.
It should be good now. Sorry, my mom needed help opening a bottle of wine. Does everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Now, last time I did, like, I turned audio off for a little bit and then it just started acting weird.
Well, you didn't use the space bar, did you?
No,
Okay.
I didn't use it last time either, but yeah, that space bar is rough. But yeah, no, I love the ambiguous ending. Also, with the Hans Zimmer music, which by the way, like, is there a better combo than Christopher Nolan and Hans Zimmer as far as like director and music? It's just he's obviously in a
Yes,
lot of,
there is.
does music for.
I got a
And,
pair in mind.
there are probably some, sure, but I'm just saying, they've made a lot of movies together, and it's just, Hans Zimmer's music is just phenomenal. And when you're leading up to that ending, his music kind of makes them, you're not tense, but you're just kind of hoping for that resolution, and makes it emotional. So when you first see this top still spinning, when it kind of comes down when he's talking to his kids, I remember in the theater, I just kind of went, no, like, 'cause it almost kind of broke my heart, thinking like, oh, he didn't make it. And then it starts shaking a little bit, and I was like, oh, maybe he did. And then it goes black, and I realized, oh, you get to kind of decide the ambig. And I love that ending. But it's either a really happy ending if it does fall, or it's a very sad ending, I think, if it doesn't.
Hmm.
So there's kind of a lot on the line just for him as a character personally, regardless of all the corporate stuff and whatnot. But yeah, so I love everything about the way this ending was. I love a good choose your own adventure kind of thing. Anyways, like I said, Hans Zimmer's music fantastic. I love all the big names in this. This movie was my introduction to Tom Hardy. I'd never seen him or heard of him before this movie, and I like instant fan. Um, and so yeah, no, I love this movie absolutely. But it's not perfect. There are different things to nitpick, and it's things that are kind of fun to make fun of, like the van falling for like a half hour, and you're like, oh my God, Um, the thing that kind of made me laugh was anytime somebody would ask, because it's so fast paced, somebody would ask Cobb a question, and he would just like, or they bring up a problem and he'd just answer it with something, and then they just move on. Like they're in like the second layer and he's trying to convince Fisher or whatever. It's like, oh no, those guys are against you. We need to kill them. Boom. Okay. And I guess that just explains it. It's like, yep, they're with me. So we need to do this. Oh, we need to go under. I thought we are under. Under again. All right, let's move. And it's just like, all right, I guess we're doing this. That did make me laugh a little bit, where I'm like, everybody's kind of just listening to him a lot right now.
Well,
But
that's when he was going under the Mr. Charlie name, right?
yes,
And Levitt had said he tried that before and it went really badly. So like
right.
I think the idea of that setup with Levitt saying that was hopefully this works this time, and then he just keeps listening to him. So
Well, the time
Yeah.
before was Sato. The Dream was Sato. He was doing the Mr. Charles bit, the dream within a
oh,
dream.
okay.
Oh,
It
I didn't get
just
that, but
Yeah, because
yeah.
he explained it. It started with him explaining, there are people who are going to come and try and steal the ideas out of your safe, blah, 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 So
Oh, okay.
that was, yeah. So they actually showed you it without saying it, without hitting you over the head with it. But that was
the one real quick, Mike, the one that made me think of that kind of like, okay, fine, I believe you live in this world and you can do all these things. and find it's a dream world, but Joseph Gordon-Levitt knows how to float around and precisely put charges in an elevator shaft to get the desired
I
effect.
mean,
Like that
Yes,
part, but
yes,
I
he
was cool
does.
with it. Like, yes, and that's where
yeah.
that's exactly where I went. I'm like, all right, fine, yes.
Yeah, I had no problems with it. I don't really have like a problem with the thing. I was just laughing at like, if you were looking for places to nitpick, it was just there were times where it's like, wow, everybody's just believing him. And
Mhm.
like, and yeah, I do get the concept of like, hey, this is, he's just going to be very forceful. Well, hopefully it works this time, but it still just kind of made me laugh. Because sometimes I feel like if you're watching this movie with somebody that's watching it for the first time, like my mother tried to and then gave up, there are just a lot of questions. She's like, what does that mean? It means they're in a dream. Well, what's that? Oh, well, they're in somebody else's dream. And so like I'm like, oh, he's doing what like you would do if you were like watching this movie with somebody. Um, Speaking of my mother, uh, she didn't watch almost this entire movie and she came in with like 20 minutes left and laid down. And then she was just kind of, right at the end when they wake up and, is it reality or not? But Leo wakes up or Cobb wakes up on the plane and she asked, she's like, so does he remember that? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, does he remember that that happened? I'm like, I don't know how to answer your question. I'm sorry. Like, it's just like, it's not a thing to remember. You missed the whole movie and there's too much to catch up on before this ends. Um, But yeah, I wasn't sure if I was gonna make it. I'm really glad I did because I love this movie. And I wanted to be part of this. So uh good pick, Brian. Thank you for picking it. Um
Thank-
yeah.
So some of the things that I got that I looked up, one of the things that if you take the characters Dom, Robert, Ames, Arthur, and Mal, it spells the word dream. Oh, and Sato, it's dreams.
Hmm.
And then if you take the Peter, Aradine, and Yusuf, it's pay. So dreams pay, which is what they're basically doing.
Mhm.
Um, in the scene on the first level of the dreams with Fisher, the state motto on the license plate were the alternate state. Um, Kate Winslet was approached for the role of Mal, but she turned it down because she didn't want to do a third movie with Leonardo. Um,
Was the pitch involving her being on a door with
Yeah, exactly.
DiCaprio? Because
right.
Yeah.
if that's the case, I would understand why she would want to decline that.
I mean, they got close
They
here,
tried,
like
right?
with the
Dreams are the doorways to the subconscious.
yeah.
Yep. Cable listings for this movie show the runtime at 2 days, 9 hours, and 14 minutes, which is the length of time it would be take to watch it in the dream world.
Uh-huh.
Sato was only going to be Ken Watanabe. He wrote the role for him specifically. So my thoughts on the kid or the final, if it's a dream or not. Um, I like to think it is not a dream, it's reality because that's the first time you see the kids' faces. In all the other dream sequences, when the kids are around, you don't see their faces. So you see their faces. Um,
But on
also,
that, sorry, on that, they have the same clothes on that they had on the
Mhm.
entire time.
And that could just be part of the dream that you can't see the faces and then you
It
do, right? But
And when he's down in the limbo world, there's a point where Mal's like, "Hey, look at your kids' faces," and he turns away before they turn and look at him because it's like he's
He's there.
trying not to remember. Right.
He tells
Um,
he tells the story that he doesn't want to see their faces because then he may want to
right.
stay.
Exactly.
Right.
Also, like it's everybody, anybody that's made a call on this one so far, it's been like I like to think that it was reality. Yeah, I like to think it was reality too if I'm making the call because that's the ending that makes you feel better. Because like if it's not, god damn, like he goes through all of this and now he's just insane for the rest of his life and didn't make it home to see his kids and like that any character that's in this movie is that. So it's like, yeah, you want to think that.
That
I want to think that
that
too.
that
Does it
actually
make
slides very nicely into the other theory that this is a prequel to Shutter Island as well.
Oh, I kind of like that.
did
Yeah.
Nolan do Shutter Island?
No, he did
No.
not. DiCaprio did, but
Well, I know.
yeah.
trailer.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan says of all his movies, the one question he gets the most is the ending. Is this a dream or not? And he's like, and I'm not going to tell you. So, Michael Caine though has come out and said he was told during the filming that every scene he is in is reality. So take from you want from that.
Yeah, but you tell actors whatever you want to tell them to get the act, the portrayal you want.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
And you only got 3 minutes anyway.
Every
Yeah.
actor in
Free reality minutes.
every actor in The Usual Suspects was told that they were fucking Kaiser Soze.
This is the fourth Nolan movie that we watched. Memento, this Tenet,
Prestige.
and Interstellar.
Did we watch Prestige?
We did not watch The Prestige,
Okay.
which is a great movie that just hasn't been picked. I did recently watched Insomnia, and that was good too. Pacino and Robin Williams. Nice job with that one too.
God damn it. The
and
Prestige was going to be my pick.
Sorry.
Feel free.
Yeah.
The next feature that he's working on is The Odyssey. So looking forward to that.
Like
I have a
the
question
Odyssey,
for everyone.
Odyssey?
Yeah, Homer.
Like Homer's Odyssey. Yeah.
A question for everyone. Give you a minute to think about it, and I'll give you my answers for it. The one thing I did not like about the movie, I didn't like Leonardo DiCaprio. I want to throw this out there to you guys. If anybody can think of anything off the top of their head of an actor that could have pulled off this part, possibly maybe not better than DiCaprio, but different, and somebody you wouldn't mind seeing in that role.
There were actually two people who declined the role before DiCaprio accepted. So to kind of spin off of this, Brad Pitt declined the role and Will Smith declined the role. And I can't see either of them doing that. And boy, Will Smith he declined this and he declined The Matrix as well. He was supposed to be Neo. Like, dude, fire your agent, man. Or
well, you had to do Bad Boys 3. What's wrong with you? Come on.
I think
Bad Boys
he's doing
3 is
fine.
great.
I mean,
Yeah, he's doing just fine. His rap career, everything, he still slaps. So it's all good.
Yeah.
He won the slap bet.
He won the slap bet. Yeah.
The person I had two, the James McAvoy, I think would have been a solid replacement for him as the lead. Mark Ruffalo. Okay. I like the Ruffalo. Anybody else or is everybody like really good with DiCaprio?
I was good with DiCaprio. I thought he looked damaged. I like he was a damaged character, and I thought he played that pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like DiCaprio. And
I also don't think he did bad, but I love Ruffalo and everything.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. And
Before we wrap that up, I do have one more question, and I can't tell if it's a nitpicking shut up nerd question or if I just didn't understand it. They talk about being stuck in limbo, and so there's one point where what's his name gets shot, and I can't
Saito
gets shot, and then he says if he dies here, he's just stuck in limbo forever. And then he goes to limbo, which I don't really understand the concept of limbo. Is it the fourth level, or is it once you get to the point where there's nobody else to go with you into a level? Because they're leaving somebody behind every time, right? So is it just you ran out of people, so the next one is limbo, or is the fourth level limbo? I wasn't clear on that. But how the hell does DiCaprio get him out of there if the rule is if you die at this level, you're stuck in limbo, and then at the end he just got him back somehow? That's one thing that I went away from the movie and I wasn't sure the answer to that.
I would think it's if you leave nobody behind, because that's why he and his wife were able to go into limbo, right? They show them just themselves with nobody behind. But I think this is what you were saying. So I thought about that too. Like they show the gun because everybody else they show kicking back through the levels, right? And him, they just show opening his eyes on the plane. But they never show Saito.
Right.
No, they
So
show Saito
They show him
because he wakes up and he picks up the phone right away and starts dialing.
they show him in DiCaprio's potential reality.
You mean when they're in limbo?
No. When they come back in the plane, it's only from Cobb's view, and yes, Saito is there, but we don't know if that's really him.
Oh,
I don't want to get too weird on it.
Well, and
that
so
seems a little
Limbo isn't a
little bit
level or a
more-
specific place.
But that's a continuous storyline. Like from
Right.
that point, it's continuous through immigration to
yeah.
are his kids real? Like that whole is the ending real is part of that, I think.
right.
Well, they
So-
leave a person behind each time because that's the person that's the dreamer.
Right.
So, but I think when they go in, but then when they go into limbo, there isn't anybody that's the dreamer. It's just like unconstructed
And-
dream space.
And they would get out eventually, but they would have spent so much dream time there that their brain would just be fried, right? That was the whole thing. Like he's been there for 90 years or something, and when he wakes up, it's just going to be such a shock to his system that
Yeah.
or his brain is just he's gone crazy at that point. That was the issue with limbo. It wasn't that you weren't coming back, it was that when you came back, you felt like you were gone for 100 years and you don't know how to like your brain can't cope.
I like
Something
that explanation. That's not the way that I heard him say it when they were in the first
Well, the
when he
whole
got
thing,
shot.
what you're calling limbo is just a dream you can't wake up from because the kick won't hit you.
Mhm.
So him and his wife, they weren't like in a fourth level or anything. They were just in their own construct and chose to stay there. They never had a kick to wake themselves up. What they were worried about is since they were so heavily sedated that a kick wouldn't, a certain kind of kick or whatever wouldn't wake them up. Or if it wasn't a strong enough kick, if they missed the kick, they wouldn't wake up. And then we fall into what Matt's saying. But that could have been in one person's, in one level. You don't have to be 3, 5, whatever. There isn't a number of levels to be down in order to not wake up from it. I thought it was the sedation that they were worried about was going to keep them there.
Yeah, because if they're sedated for however long and then you're stuck in then you're stuck in limbo because you can't wake up because of the sedation. Exactly.
And it has to do
And
more
that
with
time in
stuff.
limbo is for however long. So
The deeper you are, the scarier the limbo gets because a minute's a week or a minute's 10 years or
But then Leo put the thought in her head that they were in limbo dream and she had to get out of it,
It
which
was one
stayed in her
successful
head.
inception.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
if you believe that.
Too successful.
Right.
Yeah,
All right,
this
that's-
movie. I mean, we could end up still
Right.
arguing, not arguing, but discussing ideas. Because
Yeah, fuck. What level are we at right now?
I mean, but well, here's the question:
Depends
what
on if the
level?
Lions win or lose. I'll tell you.
What level were Dom and Mal at? If they're going to grow old to be in what appeared to be 80s senior citizens,
Mhm.
I mean, in your first level of dreams, the time differential wasn't that long,
Right.
correct? So for them to still be young when they came out of it, did they go into several levels so that they stayed there long enough to get to be 80?
That's what I assumed.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
and how did they kick out of all those levels? Yeah, the question about getting out of limbo for Saito had to do with DiCaprio giving him a kick to get back into the snow level, then get back into the van and then get out and be it quick enough so that he still had his wits about him. But if he was in there and was an old man, obviously DiCaprio wasn't. Was he there long enough so that his brain was mush?
All right.
Did anybody put any
Yep.
thought into and maybe I missed it or I've never thought about it this way. We're talking about Mal and Ha being in their dream for 80 years because they do show them as the really old people walking down the empty streets at one point. Did they have kids before that?
Good question.
So who was, so like what Brian's saying, maybe they did go 4 levels down. So 80 years seemed like a day was a day in their kids, so they only missed grandma and grandpa watching the kids for a weekend, and they were gone for 80 years, or were they gone for a long time? That the kids kind of put a hole in that.
The only reason I think they had the kids already is because if her coming back and then getting to the point where she's, putting her finger on the blade of a knife and, she had that Inception idea, the kids are, I'm going to guess about 7 and 4, something around there. That's too long of a time for her to,
So they
the
would have had to
idea
have been
not to creep in her head.
They would have had to been a couple of layers down.
Yeah.
For the time to go by fast enough and the kids not age while they were gone.
Right. In my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. That makes more sense. And there was something about to implant, the opposite of extraction is the inception. You have to be a couple layers down to, right? Wasn't
put
that
the idea in
to
ahead.
put the idea
Yeah.
because
It needs to be far enough down to where it's going to stick and it's
they
not
think it's their own.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and the coming up with the rules for that is outstanding. Again, as a storyteller. 2 other things that I had looked up in Japan when they showed this on TV, they kept a text in the upper left corner of the screen that said what level they're at, so people watching it in Japan didn't get too confused, which I think is pretty funny. And then the snow scene, Christopher Nolan took inspiration from a James Bond movie. That's one of his favorites, and it totally looks like a James Bond movie with everybody skiing and shooting and stuff. So I just thought that was cool.
I do want to give a plug. If you have not seen the South Park Inception episode, to check that one out because it's really funny. And Wilden mentions the music, which the music's great. And anytime that they explain anything about like dream within a dream, there's a guy in the back just doing the music. Not just like with his mouth. He's just like doo 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 doo. Do 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 do. So yeah, definitely.
Kruger show up too.
I don't remember.
I think something like that. Yeah,
maybe, but yeah, definitely check that one out.
All right, I think we have a wrap on Inception, or somebody put that idea in my head. 2 levels of subconscious from now. So Matt, it is your pick, and once again, the theme is a movie suggested to you as something that you might also like.
All right. So I was searching a bunch of our movies. I ended up looking at Parasite, which we've watched twice now, technically. And one of the movies it said I would enjoy is Whiplash. 2014 Whiplash. I thought we had watched this actually, but we didn't. We watched The Sound of Metal, which I picked, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, Whiplash with J.K.
Simmons. J.K. Simmons.
Miles Teller.
And Miles Teller. Yeah, 2014. I thought it was on Amazon, but it looks like it's on Netflix possibly. But you can rent it on Amazon still.
This is definitely worth renting if you have not seen it.
Mm-hmm. All right, I have not. I have not seen it. That's why I picked it. Has anyone else not seen it besides me?
I have not seen it. Sorry, Brian.
But on a positive note, Mike, Hilty's definitely seen it, just like he's seen every movie ever created.
Yes.
So
there has been one movie that I have Dan's last movie I had not seen.
Oh, very nice.
And you also get a strike in the BTB Movie Club, Matt, because you're supposed to pick from a movie that you have previously picked. And Parasite was not a movie that you have previously picked. So
well, I didn't understand the rules, Tim. Since we play loosey goosey with the rules in this, I can pick a different movie if you want.
No, it's fine. I like this movie. We'll roll with it.
Give me 3 minutes. I'll pick a movie from one of mine. How about that?
No,
Mister. All of a sudden, we're following the rules. We're following the rules. And
take 52 minutes if you want to pick the movie. It's all good.
I'll tell you what. I got this.
It'll just be dead air.
I'll just flip this over.
Dead air.
Apparently,
Us chatting until you pick a movie. It's all good.
Minutes.
Now you know what would be funny is if I picked something of mine and this movie still popped up. That would.
I figured Sound of Metal. It might be
possible.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Sound of Metal first.
Let's do a quick check.
It didn't. I'm looking at Sound of Metal right now. It's not in there.
Oh.
Speaking of which, can I
That
get a rules
attitude.
clarification here?
Cool.
Is it the IMDb page of More Like This?
I don't know what
or it's-
IMDP you're
Yeah.
talking
Yeah,
about,
I
but
know.
Double
I
penetration.
stumbled
There you
over
go.
my
Yeah.
word. I
Yeah.
apologize.
whoa, easy there, Wilden.
Wow. I said I stumbled over my what?
You're on your mother's Wi-Fi for crying out loud. Yeah,
That
IMDb.
I said I know I stumbled over my words. I apologize. What is I don't
Well, some of the letters you strung together got turned into porn while you weren't listening.
Oh, I see.
Um,
Got it. Okay.
You guys ready? You guys ready for my
Yeah.
real pick? Not my fake pick.
Lions won the coin toss. Let's go.
It's 7. All right, so I looked up, and this is probably in more than one spot. So I went to Heat, which I had to double check that I picked. I did in fact pick Heat. So from
That's good.
Heat, we had a couple options here, but we're gonna go with Casino.
Ah,
I watch Casino. It was either
Did
that
Francis
or
Ford Coppola do that?
Yeah, I was about to say that's a Francis Ford Coppola classic, isn't it?
Indeed,
Right, Tim?
Indeed.
Right?
Here come
Huh?
the mutes.
I don't know where this is coming from. I don't know where this is coming from.
Rather watch Whiplash.
Me too, Aaron. Me too. But you again, Tim says you don't get to. So that's Tim's movie group. So
So seriously, what'd you say, Casino?
Casino, yeah.
I'm gonna write it down.
That'll do it for this episode of the BTB Movie Club podcast. Thank you as always for listening. We know we enjoyed ourselves. We hope you did too. Have yourself a great week. We are partnered with the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network.